committed action. So, I mean, this is predominantly creating habits that support you reaching your goal. And this means taking action in alignment with your values, even when it's hard. So, this is already going to be difficult. Like being in a fat loss phase, physiologically, you're going to have hunger signaling and you're going to have, I guess, really all physiological signals that tell you that you should rest more and you should eat more because your body is in a state where it's not getting the nutrients it needs to support critical and non-critical functions. And if weight loss wasn't hard, no one would be overweight. Weight loss is hard. Losing weight is hard. Business is hard. Relationships are hard. So the key is making actions that are as easy as possible and creating an environment where there is as little resistance as possible in your ability to take that action. So I look at like physical barriers. Okay. So with like habit stacking, thinking about like taking vitamins, making sure that you take your weight every morning, any way that we can make these easy to access, like physically easy to do, the better. So what I do is like the app on my phone I use to track my weight every day. I use Renfo. It hooks up to the digital scale I have. Then that digitally logs into the app and logs my weight. Even though I might go populate that weight then into a spreadsheet because I have my timeline and all of my metrics in there, it's still a good way to make sure that as soon as I'm getting on the scale, that weight is logged. Also helps having the scale right there in the bathroom. Another good tool is like swapping behaviors. So instead of just saying, we got to throw all the candy out outside the house, what I would do is put a pack of mints or a pack of gum. I'm not a big fan of gum, but to each their own. I would put that in that candy drawer and I would actually put that ahead of where the candy is. If you want to put the candy in like a Ziploc bag, make it a little bit harder to like just easily reach into, cool. Put the gum there, put the mints there, and basically every time that you have that urge to go into that drawer, take a piece of gum, take a piece of mint or a single mint. I don't know how to say that. Every time you have an urge to go into that drawer, instead, grab a mint, grab a piece of gum, and now you've essentially swapped that behavior. And if you give yourself 5 minutes, and this is more in the case of someone who is not on like a strict fat loss phase and they're able to have a bit more flexibility, maybe you do decide after 5 minutes, okay, I actually do want a piece of candy. But I know for me, typically, whenever I give myself the ability to pause and really think it through, like, is this something that I want to do? Typically, I find if I can hold out a little bit longer, I usually come to my senses and I'm like, nope, it's not really aligned with the goal. That was just an impulse. All right. And lastly, playing it out. And this is a really strong visualization tool that I like to use, which is really thinking about what the day is going to look like if you don't follow anything. So if you were to go about your day and intentionally eat more than is allotted on your plan, if you were to order in, if you were to stop on the way, get some Chick-fil-A, if you were to get a very high calorie beverage, at a coffee shop, if you were to have a few more glasses of wine, if you were to skip your workout, if you were to not do any cardio, if you were to not drink your water, if you were to go to bed whenever you felt like it, like truly everything on your plan, I want you to do the inverse of that. Now, if you don't stick to your plan and you actually do this like just opposing plan entirely, how does that make you feel? Like really think about the next day. How's your skin going to feel? Are you going to have a headache? How's your stomach going to feel? Are you going to want to even get on the scale? Are you going to feel guilt and shame about having to message me and be like, yo, I completely fucked my diet right off? Most people let a bump in the road, like one part of their day, one little slip up, become the pothole that they get stuck in. And then they fall into this cascade of all negative behaviors that, essentially pull them down and lead to that next day hangover, metaphorically, where they're like, oh yeah, no, I completely went off track. I tracked nothing. And the way you really have to think about it is like, it's never just one decision. Like there's I have food on hand and I can easily grab it and put it in my mouth. And then, okay, that's it. Like that was a very simple stepwise systems, like to have you now overconsume and go off track. But when it comes to like not going to the gym, it's like, okay, I didn't caffeinate. I didn't put my gym attire on. I looked at the clock and I just decided to do something else. If there were any arrangements with like maybe my husband or a friend to go meet up at the gym or coordinate around a certain time so I could go to the gym, I didn't consider anything like that. And even throughout the day, like you have to think, okay, you eat 3 meals a day. So if you have a full day completely off track, just fuck off on your diet, just eat whatever you want, eat in servings that are way more than you should eat. It's like that doesn't happen accidentally. Like there is conscious effort and choice that comes through with making those decisions. Like you are consciously deciding to source whatever meals you're actually going to have in the amounts that you're going to have them. I think if you can recognize one, this is how you will feel if you have a full day off. Like if you completely throw caution to the wind and do everything opposite of what you want to do that's aligned with your goals, identifying like that is how it's going to make you feel, like, or this is how it's going to make you feel, and really trying to like sink into that. I think that's helpful. And then I think also, if you do find that you do go off track, you have one thing, you start your morning, you get Chick-fil-A on the way, you get donuts, you have, I don't know, you have like pastries at your office, you have one or two, you have the opportunity to get back on track right then. Like right then, that's the moment where you can be like, oh, like, okay, that wasn't aligned with my goals, but I'm going to salvage what I can today. I'm not going to make it worse because I know what that would feel like because I've already visualized it. I think when people don't take committed action, they feel stuck, they feel powerless, they feel helpless, whether this is in weight loss, relationships, business, and they feel conflicting feedback of no plan or action. And having knowledge like is one thing, having the ability to be like, okay, like I overate this morning, so that means I need to then pull down food later in the day. But putting it into practice through committed action is really what defines real learning. And I think that's where when you can take a step back and be like, well, this isn't aligned with my goals. I can be present enough to know that, like, yes, this was a slip up. This was very temporary. But if I continue to act this way, if I continue to follow this course, this trajectory, well, I know what that's going to feel like. And I know I'm going to feel way worse. So I'm going to consciously opt out of that. I'm going to choose to not do that. And I think until you take committed action, you're actually robbing yourself of that lesson to course correct, which truly is a very important skill in the hierarchy of skill sets related to dieting. And I think more than anything, being able to get started and begin moving forward, even in those imperfect conditions. So in those settings where it might be hard to be adherent, or it might be a little more stressful to make decisions around food behaviors. It's like, okay, well, life is never going to be endlessly easy. It's never going to be just a smooth shot. So it's like, okay, let's do what we can now, even if that's not perfect. Even if it's not perfect, it's still better than the alternative. I think it ultimately comes down to taking small and manageable steps in order to build self-efficacy, which ultimately you do that. You build routines that support your goals, whether that be like meal prepping, scheduling workouts, knowing what you need to do when things don't go according to plan. But if you have these habits that help you succeed, even when progress feels slow or imperfect, you're going to be much better off than just simply relying on those perfect conditions or days in which you have no slip ups to be successful.